system what you did. It took about 2 million Americans before I was sworn in. 2 million Americans had been vaccinated. Today, because of the efforts what you voted for, we have more than 250 million Americans fully vaccinated. You all remember the lines of cars? Remember nice-looking cars stretched for hours and hours to Moken just to get a box of food. Well, guess what?
Exciting news, the lawmakers are considering monthly stimulus checks, and these payments automatically deposited for millions of people. Democrats are pushing for new checks to be worth at least $300, and now the child tax credit, which was temporarily expanded through the American Rescue Plan, had the existing credit of $2,000 per dependent under age 17. It was increased to around $3,600 per dependent under 6 and $3,000 per child under 6 through 17. Half of the enhanced sum was made available through monthly payments starting last July, up to $300 per child under 6 and up to $250 per child under 18. Families could claim the remaining money when they filed their tax returns for the year, and Democrats had hoped to renew some more generous credits this year. But the key legislation they hope to pass through the Build Back Better bill has fallen apart, and Joe Manchin is the one to blame. He is opposed to renewing the payments without additional work requirements, and it's all on Joe Manchin now. Democrats and advocates are hoping to get one more go at renewing the enhanced child tax credit this year. Adam Rubin, a campaign director at an advocacy organization that promotes extending economic power to all Americans, told reporters, "I feel better about it than I have at any point in 2022. A number of signs are pointing to new momentum. President Biden called the enhanced child tax credit one of the most effective programs we've ever seen at a recent White House conference, and Joe Biden also said, "That's why my national strategy calls on Congress to expand the child credit permanently. We'll get it done more this time." And recently released census data shows that credit expansion has helped reduce child poverty by more than 40%. That prompted Democratic lawmakers like Michael Bennet of Colorado, Sherrod Brown of Ohio, and Cory Booker of New Jersey to call for extending the enhanced credit before the year ends. The post-election period, everybody, could be a key opportunity for revisiting the proposal. It's a more optimism time compared to last year, as lawmakers are at a year-end tax deal to revisit corporate tax cuts put in place in 2017. Advocates hope an enhanced child tax credit can be included in that package. And Brown said in a recent interview, no more tax breaks for big corporations and the wealthy unless the child tax credit is with it. According to Elaine Mag, an expert at the Urban Bookings Tax Policy Center, there were the few key features behind the success of the 2021 credit, in addition to the higher credit amounts than monthly payments. And now, the credit was made fully refundable. That made it possible for low-income households to access the full credit. Plus, don't forget about this, everybody. Experts say that when lawmakers negotiate on new terms, an enhanced child tax credit may not be as generous as the 2021 crisis-era relief. Now, child poverty is poised to increase relative to last year. Economists have said that Congress had a real choice on whether or not to take action and stern some of the rise in poverty, and the work requirements may be a sticking point in the negotiations between the two parties. Over the past few months, Americans can now apply for additional crisis relief assistance. The administration has announced and confirmed that hundreds of billions of more dollars are being put towards more financial aid for the people. New checks worth up to $500 have also been approved, so make sure to watch until the end to see how to claim this money. So many Virginia residents can get a check in the mail or money deposited into your bank account if you're eligible for this year's tax rebate. The rebate is part of a bipartisan plan that's passed through the state, and in this year's Generally Assembled session, the Virginia Department of Taxation website lists more information regarding those rebate payments for eligible taxpayers. So according to the website, not all taxpayers will qualify for this. Officials said that if you had a tax liability last year, you can actually receive up to $250 if you filed individually and up to $500 if you filed jointly. Virginia's tax commissioner said the rebates would start to be used and issued for all returns that were filed by September 5th. The plan is to issue 250,000 refunds daily. Over the course of the program, though, is the end of the year. The state expects to issue about 3 million more one-time tax rebates. Officials anticipate sending roughly 1 million rebates through direct deposit and 1.9 million rebate checks, so this is some good news. And also the application for President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is expected to go live as soon as this week. Announced in late August, the plan will deliver federal student loan forgiveness to millions of low and middle income people. The Congressional Budget Office said in a report released last week that a student loan cancellation could come at a price of $400 billion, but noted that those payments are still very high and uncertain, so the Biden administration. Because on the way, new payments are being approved, and now lawmakers are in several states and have just announced a brand new plan, and this brand new plan will directly help the low income. Congress is already working on allocating unspent crisis funds towards new relief, and now Republicans and the White House negotiators agreed to claw back approximately $27 billion in funding to the federal agencies intended to combat the crisis. And pulling back funds that have already been appropriated is what's known as a recession, based on a document being circulated by the White House to Democrats. These recessions should not be focused on funds that had not been spent by agencies on the respective crisis-era programs. But unspent crisis dollars have long been a target for Republicans, who question the administration's request for more funds, arguing the nearly $5 trillion spent on crisis relief was excessive and also helped drive inflation. Some of these programs are largely concluded, and others will only see partial recessions, while others were taken because there are no immediate demands. Even the White House budget director was a key negotiator on the deal. The appropriators will use some of that money to spread around how they see fit and individual line items to bill. In other words, these unused crisis funds will be distributed by Congress during this year in budget process to other parts of the federal budget, reducing overall government spending. But as recently as late last year, the White House has asked Congress for an additional $10 billion in crisis funds. The money never came through, and now the administration has agreed to give $27 billion back, including a significant portion of what remained in the fund for emergency preparedness and response. States are in the process of allocating money towards new programs. A guaranteed income program in Wisconsin issued its latest payment worth $500. The payments are put forward every single month, and a lot of people receive them and receive the money they need. And the program as a whole will be the last one for one more year. This first payment was issued in September, and the final payment will be sent in August. But even a household of two, for example, can make more than $36,000 and get the payments every single month. Now, some governors are backing a one-time tax rebate to put as much as $800 in the pockets of the American people. And the governor told reporters a paycheck does not go as far as it did 2 years ago, and I'm working to give nearly $1 billion back to the hands of hard-working, tax-paying Alabama residents. But applications for new guaranteed income programs in Massachusetts, for example, opened, with selected participants receiving monthly payments of up to $500. So folks, it's great to see that Joe Biden is actually doing something to help the American people, which since mid-2022, politicians have warned Americans and a growing number of tax people to be exact about this. And the IRS has said that it wants to hire new employees using funds from the $80 billion allocated to the Inflation Reduction Act. But according to several experts, the IRS does not plan to use all of that funding for hiring purposes alone. As the New York Times pointed out, the IRS total number of full-time employees is 20% fewer than what the agency had in 2010. Even though the population has grown, to bolster its numbers, the agency plans to hire using a lot of money, with roughly $7,200 of those being hiring enforcement staff. This would add to the 5,000 phone personnel